Have you ever had that feeling, that deep existential neutral gear?
Hmm.
Your life's engine is running, you're busy, you're putting in the hours, but you just feel completely disconnected from any kind of momentum.
Right. It's not just being bored.
No, not at all. It's this profound psychological fatigue of doing a lot, but going absolutely nowhere. It's like spinning your wheels on ice.
Yeah.
That confusion, the deep dissatisfaction, the lack of drive, that shadow of doubt that just creeps into every single decision.
That is the unmistakable sign.
You're stuck.
You're stuck. And look, it's an overwhelming place to be. And what's so crucial for you to realize right away is that this feeling isn't a sign of failure.
Okay.
It's actually a sign that your current framework for life has, well, it's run its course. You've hit a psychological boundary.
So it's a signal, not a verdict.
Exactly.
Right.
And our mission in this deep dive is to unpack the subtle mechanisms that lock us into this stagnation. We're going to provide you with a kind of roadmap.
A roadmap. I like that.
Yeah, one built from proven psychological insights to help you dismantle those invisible walls and start building genuine self-directed momentum again.
Because we can spend all our time just lamenting this state, or we can tackle the central question, how do we actually initiate that first movement?
How do you get the engine started again?
Exactly.
Ah.
How do we shift from the inertia of being stalled to the smooth flow of purpose? So we've structured this deep dive around 5 critical pillars to take you from that internal paralysis to decisive action.
Okay, let's unpack this journey, because the transition from feeling cemented in place to feeling in flow is fundamentally about reclaiming your internal authority.
So let's start with the first and maybe the most tempting psychological trap, which is just passivity.
Ah, yes. The passenger seat.
The passenger seat. It looks so comfortable, doesn't it? When things feel difficult or uncertain, it just feels easier to sit back and watch life unfold.
To wait for some kind of solution to just be delivered to your lap.
But that surrender, that waiting game, that's the very thing that keeps us cemented in place.
It is. We confuse ease with rest. And there's a psychological concept for this, the tendency toward what's called learned helplessness.
Learned helplessness.
Yeah, if we wait long enough for external circumstances to change, a new job, a shift in the market, whatever, we literally train our brains to believe we can't influence our own outcomes.
And that's the ultimate roadblock.
It is.
So if the feeling of being trapped only really exists when we delegate our power, then escaping it requires effort.
It requires effort.
Even when effort feels like the most impossible thing in the world.
Precisely. You need a fundamental shift. You have to move out of that passive passenger seat where you're just observing the scenery, and you have to grab the steering wheel.
And that first step, no matter how small it is.
It's everything. That's the cultivation of willpower, not as some mystical force, but as a muscle. You're committing to establishing meaningful, sustainable goals, and you're recognizing that the very act of taking control is what reignites that internal motivational cycle.
It proves to you that you're actually capable of steering.
You got it.
Okay, so once we've decided to take the wheel, we often find ourselves stalled again. But this time it's not by the road ahead, it's by the psychological weight we're carrying.
The invisible walls.
Yes. The invisible walls we've built inside our own heads. What are these inner limitations?
Well, they're sort of the silent governors of your potential. I mean, they show up as that crippling fear of failure, right? The one that prevents us from even starting a new project because the possibility of a mistake is it's unacceptable.
Or perfectionism.
Oh, perfectionism, which is often just procrastination in a fancy code. It ensures nothing is ever finished because it hasn't met some impossible standard.
And what about the third big one? The need for external validation. That one feels maybe the most insidious.
It is, because it hands your thermostat over to the outside weather. If your sense of self-worth is constantly dependent on applause or titles or approval from others,
then your motivation is permanently outside of your control.
it's gone. You're waiting for someone else to give you permission to feel good about your own life.
These fears, these limiting beliefs, they feel so colossal. How do we even begin to chip away at them?
The first step is identification. This is where the real deep dive happens. You have to confront these limitations to understand their origin.
So, for example,
Recognizing that your quest for perfection isn't about quality. It's really about defending yourself against judgment. That recognition, that's an act of empowerment.
it's about seeing the man behind the curtain.
Exactly. Whether the limitation is massive or minuscule, the ability to identify it, name it, and then consciously choose to let it go is the only path that frees you to pursue what you actually authentically desire.
And that leads us perfectly into the authenticity check, because even if we manage to disarm our internal fears, we can still feel intensely stuck if we're living a life designed by other people's expectations.
The costume that no longer fits.
Yes, that's such a powerful analogy. You're wearing a costume for a role you don't even want to play anymore.
And you have to ask yourself,
Hmm.
are your obligations truly yours? This trap happens when we prioritize status over substance.
Like chasing a job for the impressive title rather than for the actual enjoyment it provides.
Or you're carrying responsibilities, maintaining social relationships, pursuing studies based purely on what your family or your peers or society expects of you.
And what's the consequence of that continuous compromise? Of always
Yeah.
wearing the mask.
You end up feeling hollowed out, uninteresting. You feel fundamentally disconnected from your own life, and this is where time literally feels wasted.
So what's the fix?
To regain traction, you need a radical prioritization exercise. It's about achieving what we call internal congruence. You need to reflect on your deepest desires, your core values, and then just ruthlessly audit the areas of your life that are violating that authenticity.
Asking yourself, what am I doing right now simply to satisfy someone else's script?
That's the question.
That kind of deep self-honesty can be painful, though, especially when you realize how much of your daily structure is built on these inauthentic things. Which brings us to the daily grind. We complain about the boredom of the same old, but why is breaking a miserable routine so incredibly difficult? Why does misery sometimes feel safer than novelty?
That's a fantastic question, and it gets to something deep in our subconscious. We often mistake routine for stability. Psychological insights show that when we build a rigid routine, we're subconsciously choosing predictable behaviors because they feel, well, they feel self-protective.
A psychological bunker. So the routine is like a bunker.
Yeah.
Even if it's boring, even if it's contributing to this feeling of being stuck, it's shielding us from something.
It's shielding us from anxiety, from fear of failure, and from the massive cognitive load of making decisions all the time.
So uncertainty feels like a threat.
It's perceived as a threat, so we design these structured behaviors to navigate the world because familiarity means less risk. The routine becomes this protective shield against the unpredictable pain of the world, even if that shield is stifling you.
So to get unstuck, we have to gently disrupt that shield. We need to introduce novelty, but without triggering a full-scale panic.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And we're talking about micro changes here, things that accumulate over time. The goal is to stretch the comfort zone, not shatter it.
So what are some simple examples?
Introduce new activities.
Oh.
Reinvent the regular schedule. Take a completely different, maybe even a longer route to work just to change the sensory input.
Or dedicating, say, 10 minutes, phone-free, to a creative hobby.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Or implementing a no screens rule for the first hour of the day. You're signaling to your subconscious that you can embrace change and you can do it safely.
Okay, so we've addressed the internal state, the self-imposed limits, authenticity, the cage of routine. Now we need the final piece.
The tangible direction.
We need to build the roadmap.
Absolutely. When you feel stalled in one major area of your life, let's say your career, it's vital to shift your focus to other areas where you do have controllable influence,
Even if it's just a little bit.
even if it's only slightly. This is how you generate positive internal momentum. This is how you give yourself achievements to look forward to.
And that's where just having abstract wishes completely fails and where structured goal setting takes over. It's not enough to say, I want to be better at managing my time.
No. If you're already feeling demotivated, vague goals are just recipes for another failure.
So the goal system has to be personalized.
It has to accommodate your need for visible, positive growth. And this is where the widely accepted framework of SMART goal setting becomes essential. It forces structure onto wishful thinking.
Let's break down SMART for someone feeling stuck. The S is for specific.
Correct. Specific means you clearly define the who, what, where, why. So instead of I want to write more, a specific goal is I will write 500 words on my novel outline every weekday morning before I check my email.
So clear. And then it needs to be measurable. How do we track progress when we're feeling stalled?
You quantify it. Saying I want more money is useless. A measurable goal is I will open a high-yield savings account and transfer $250 into it on the first of every month for the next 6 months.
There's a clear metric of success right there.
You either did it or you didn't.
Next, achievable A and realistic R. This feels so critical when you're demotivated. We can't set ourselves up for a dramatic failure.
These two components prevent burnout. If you've been inactive for 6 months, it's not realistic to set a goal of running a marathon next month.
Right.
An achievable, realistic goal must be slightly outside your comfort zone, but not outside your capacity. It demands effort, but it guarantees progress. And progress is the fuel for future motivation.
Start small to guarantee the win.
Absolutely.
And finally, timely T. You need that deadline.
Without a deadline, a goal is just a dream. Timely means you set a clear endpoint. I will complete and submit 3 job applications for the NGO sector by Friday, October 30th. Using the SMART framework gives you visible evidence of your own agency.
It rebuilds self-trust. It shows you that you can successfully move the needle in your own life.
Exactly.
And that is the ultimate objective, isn't it? Rebuilding that internal trust. Because while the world will always throw unpredictable challenges at us, strong goal setting ensures you stay a couple of steps ahead of the game.
It gives you the necessary time and space to find your natural flow again.
This has been such a necessary deep dive. And if you're listening and feeling stuck, please remember this phase of uncertainty and confusion is universal.
It really is. Change isn't a singular event. It's a cumulative process that happens over time, and is driven by consistent, proactive steps and just uncompromising self-honesty.
So the ultimate success here isn't about ticking off a to-do list. It's about establishing the internal architecture that supports continued movement.
That's right. And since the real goal isn't just temporary relief but sustainable direction, I want to leave you with a deeper, more philosophical thought as you build your roadmap.
Yep.
If the goals you're setting today are simply aimed at relieving immediate discomfort or anxiety or external pressure, what deeper underlying purpose are you still neglecting?
Wow.
Challenge yourself to consider not just what specific things you need to start doing to get unstuck, but fundamentally, who you need to become to ensure you never get trapped in that passive, stalled feeling ever again.